Hook it up. Yeah, he hooking it up, y'all. Make sure y'all smash that hype button and that like button. And I will be going live for a few hours. Make sure y'all there. All right, y'all. So we talking about the murder of FBG Cash, the murder of Lil Pop, the murder of Stefan Mack. We talking about all this at once. And Lil Durk is really fried, man. Not only is the California, but we got to remember the Stefan Mack murder case.
August 10th, 2022, Chicago. Early morning, a black Cadillac pulls up outside a residence on the south side. Seconds later, gunfire erupts, multiple shots, chaos, people screaming, and just like that, FBG Cash is gone. Now rewind the tape, because nearly 2 years later, a completely different courtroom, federal, quiet, controlled, might hold answers no one expected, not from the streets, but from paperwork, from plea deals, from people talking, and somehow the name Lil Durk is now being pulled into the conversation, not through direct charges in this case, but through what fans believe could be a chain reaction triggered by federal pressure, alleged hitmen, and deals being made behind closed doors. Let that sink in. Social media is saying that a federal plea deal involving an alleged shooter connected to Durk's wider circle could open doors, could expose timelines, could connect dots, but nothing is confirmed. Prosecutors allege multiple acts of violence tied to ongoing investigations. Fans believe this could finally lead somewhere. Others say it's all speculation, and here's what nobody is telling you. Sometimes cases don't get solved on the street. They get solved in rooms where people start talking. So the question becomes, if someone is cooperating with the feds, what are they saying? And more importantly, who are they saying it about? Rewind the tape for a second, because before the headlines, before the speculation, before the federal whispers started getting louder, there was a story that looked very different on the surface. This wasn't just about one incident, it was about years of tension, movement, alliances, and choices that slowly built towards something nobody could stop once it began. At the center of it all was FBG Cash, a name that carried weight in Chicago's drill scene, and a figure who, according to fans, had been navigating a dangerous environment long before that final day. To understand what happened, you have to go back, not just days or weeks, but years. Chicago, especially the South Side, has long been at the center of hip-hop conversations, but also at the center of something deeper. Real-life conflicts that don't stay on wax, neighborhood divisions that don't disappear when the music stops, and artists caught in the middle, trying to balance survival, success, and reputation. As Lil Durk became one of the biggest names to rise out of that environment, building a global brand while still being tied, at least in perception, to the streets that shaped him. Now think about the timeline. Early 2020s, Chicago drill is no longer just local, it's global. Labels are investing, millions of dollars are moving, and with that comes something else. Pressure. Industry pressure, street pressure, the kind of pressure that doesn't show up in interviews but shows up in decisions. Fans believe that behind the scenes, there were tensions that never fully cooled down. Social media is saying that certain rivalries weren't just for music, they were personal, layered, and ongoing. By mid-2022, things started feeling different. According to sources close to the situation, there were signs, subtle, but there. Instagram live moments where energy felt tense, lyrics that fans believe hinted at real-life situations, and posts that at the time didn't seem like much but now feel like warnings. Let that sink in. Sometimes the clues are there, but nobody realizes it until it's too late. On June 10th, 2022 in Chicago, Illinois, everything changed. But even before that day, people close to FBG Cash reportedly felt the pressure building. According to unconfirmed reports, there were concerns about safety, about movement, about who could be trusted. Nothing is confirmed, but fans believe that living in that environment means always looking over your shoulder even when things seem quiet on the surface. And here's what nobody is telling you, like the industry doesn't always separate itself from the streets as cleanly as people think. There are business interests, contracts, reputations, and alliances all tied together. When an artist rises, it's not just about music, it's about influence. And influence can shift power. Some people think that's where things start to get complicated. At the same time, Lil Durk was expanding his reach. Major features, chart success, business ventures. From the outside, it looked like a success story. But according to social media discussions and fan theories, success doesn't erase the past. It just puts it under a bigger spotlight. spotlight, and that spotlight can bring attention from places you don't expect. Think about the environment for a second. Multiple artists, multiple crews, years of history, and a city that has seen this pattern before. Rising stars, growing tensions, and moments that escalate when nobody expects it. People are divided on how much of this is preventable and how much of it feels inevitable given the circumstances. Then there's the human side of it, the part that often gets lost in headlines. Behind the name FBG Cash was a person, a family, people who knew him beyond the music, a mother, friends, a community. According to posts that circulated after his passing, emotions ran high, with loved ones expressing grief and disbelief. One message, shared widely on Facebook, simply said, "He was more than what y'all saw." Let that sink in for a moment, because before anything else, before investigations, before theories, before federal discussions, this was a life. And that's the part that grounds everything. Now, as we move forward in this timeline, things start to shift from background to focus. Because what happened next isn't just about one day, it's about how that day is being looked at now, years later, especially as new legal developments and alleged federal connections begin to surface. And here's the question that starts to take shape. Was this an isolated moment, or part of something much bigger that's only now starting to come into focus? Rewind the tape again, but this time, slow it down, because what happened on June 10th, 2022 in Chicago wasn't just a moment, it was a sequence. A chain of events that investigators, fans, and now even legal analysts are still trying to piece together step by step, and when you follow the paperwork, things start to feel heavier. According to reports at the time, the incident involving FBG Cash took place early in the morning, around 5:30 a.m. in the Auburn-Gresham area. Police say a vehicle pulled up, shots were fired, and within seconds, everything changed. That's the surface level version, but here's what nobody is telling you. The timeline around that moment is what people keep going back to. Sources close to the situation say investigators began looking at surveillance footage almost immediately. Street cameras, traffic cameras, private security systems from nearby homes. Piece by piece, they allegedly started building a visual map of what happened before and after the shooting. Nothing is confirmed publicly in full detail, but unconfirmed reports suggest that vehicles seen in the area were tracked across multiple blocks, possibly linking movements before the incident to movements afterward. Now think about that for a second. A city full of cameras. Or a timeline that can be reconstructed minute by minute. Let that sink in. At the same time, according to law enforcement procedures, phone records often become a key focus in cases like this. Prosecutors allege in similar cases that call logs, location pings, and text messages can place individuals within certain areas at certain times. It's called digital evidence, and it's one of the strongest tools investigators use today. In simple terms, your phone can tell a story, even when you don't. Social media is saying that federal interest in related cases started growing not long after. Some people think that what happened to FBG Cash wasn't being looked at in isolation, but as part of a larger pattern involving multiple incidents. Again, nothing is confirmed, but fans believe that when federal agencies step in, it usually means they're looking at something bigger than one case. Then came another layer, what some are calling the paper trail. Court documents in separate but possibly connected cases began surfacing online. Names redacted, details limited, but certain phrases stood out. Cooperating witness, plea agreement, federal investigation. These aren't just random terms. In legal language, they carry weight. Let's break that down simply. A plea agreement means someone agrees to provide information or admit involvement in exchange for reduced charges. Prosecutors allege that these deals often help build larger cases by connecting smaller pieces of evidence. It's not about one person, it's about the network, and that's where things start to get complicated. Social media is going crazy over one particular theory. And fans believe that an alleged hitman tied to a separate federal case may have provided information that could connect back to multiple incidents, including the one involving FBG Cash. Now, to be clear, this is based on speculation and interpretation of documents that are not fully public. Nothing is confirmed, but the idea alone has people paying attention. Follow the paperwork. One user wrote, "Everything is in the documents if you read closely." Others pushed back, saying people are jumping to conclusions without verified proof, and they're not not wrong to question it, because in legal cases, context matters. A name mentioned in a document doesn't automatically mean involvement. That's why investigators rely on multiple forms of evidence: video, digital records, witness statements, before building a case. Meanwhile, as emotions ran high online, fans of FBG Cash demanded answers, while others debated what all of this could mean. People are divided. Some believe justice is slowly unfolding. Others think the full story is still being hidden behind sealed documents and ongoing investigations. And then there's the industry angle, because here's something people don't always consider. When federal cases start overlapping with public figures, it changes everything. Labels, sponsors, business partners, they all start paying attention, because now it's not just about music, it's about risk, reputation, and legal exposure. At this point in the timeline, the story stops being simple. It's no longer just about what happened on that morning in June. It's about what investigators believe led up to it and what information might still be coming out. Edit. And the biggest question starting to form is this: if there really is a larger federal case building in the background, how many pieces of this story have we not seen yet? After the sirens fade and the headlines slow down, what's left is the part most people don't sit with long enough: the human cost. Because behind the name FBG Cash was a real person with people who loved him, people who depended on him, people who are still trying to make sense of what happened. In the days following June 10th, 2022, social media turned into a space of grief. Friends posted memories. Family members shared heartbreak. One message, reportedly from a relative, simply read, "He didn't deserve this." Let that sink in, because no matter what theories are being discussed now, that loss hasn't changed. The community felt it too. In neighborhoods across Chicago, conversations weren't just about music or rivalries. They were about safety, about cycles that seem impossible to break. According to sources close to the situation, some residents expressed frustration, saying this felt like another name added to a list that keeps growing. Emotions ran high, not just online, but in real life. Candlelight vigils, murals, and quiet moments of reflection became part of the aftermath. At the same time, the industry kept moving forward. New songs dropped, tours continued, business deals didn't pause, and that contrast, life stopping for some while continuing for others, is something that hits differently when you really think about it. For Lil Durk, the spotlight remained intense. His career was still at a peak, but now every move, every lyric, every public appearance was being watched more closely than ever. Fans began revisiting past music, trying to find meaning, trying to connect dots. Some people think that's unfair, turning art into evidence without proof. Others believe music often reflects real life more than people want to admit. People are divided, and that divide keeps growing. From a legal perspective, this is where things become even more complex, because while social media runs on opinions, the courtroom runs on evidence. Prosecutors allege that in broader federal cases, cooperation from individuals can open doors to new information. But that doesn't automatically mean every theory circulating online is accurate. Defense attorneys in situations like these often challenge the credibility of witnesses, question the interpretation of evidence, and push back against assumptions. It's a system designed to test everything before it becomes fact. Now here's where the emotional and legal worlds collide. Families want answers, communities want closure, but legal processes take time, sometimes years, and during that time, speculation fills the silence. Social media is saying that certain plea deals could lead to breakthroughs, that people might be talking, that new information could surface. But again, nothing is confirmed, and until something is proven in court, it remains in that space between possibility and reality. Meanwhile, those closest to FBG Cash are left with memories, old videos, photos, messages, moments that now feel heavier. One friend, according to posts that circulated, shared a clip of them laughing together just days before everything happened. No signs of what was coming. No indication that life was about to change so suddenly. That's the part that hits hardest, the normal moments that become the last moments. At the same time, public perception continues to shift. Some fans believe justice is slowly unfolding through federal investigations. Others think the narrative is being shaped by incomplete information. "We don't know everything yet," one user commented. Another replied, "But something bigger is definitely happening." That tension between belief and uncertainty is what keeps this story alive. And then there's the question of responsibility, not just legally, but culturally. What role does the industry play? What role do fans play in amplifying narratives? What happens when real-life situations become content, views, and discussions? These are questions that don't have simple answers. But they're part of the conversation whether people acknowledge them or not. Right now, the aftermath isn't just about what happened, it's about what it means. For the family, it means loss. For the community, it means another reminder of a cycle that hasn't been broken. For the industry, it means increased scrutiny. And for the audience, it means trying to understand a story that's still unfolding, because even with all the discussion, all the theories, all the attention, there are still gaps, still unanswered questions, still pieces missing. And until those pieces are found, the weight of what happened doesn't go away. It just shifts, becoming something people carry in different ways while waiting for clarity that hasn't come yet. Now zoom out for a second, because when you step back from the details, the names and the timelines, a bigger picture starts to come into focus, and it's one that hip-hop has been circling around for years. This isn't just about FBG Cash. It's not just about Lil Durk. It's about a system where music, street history, business power, and federal investigations all collide in ways that most people don't fully see. Here's what nobody is telling you. The industry and the streets have always had a complicated relationship. Labels invest in authenticity, but authenticity sometimes comes from environments that carry real risks. When an artist rises, they don't just bring their talent, they bring their story, their connections, their past. And sometimes that past doesn't stay in the past. Fans believe that's where things start to overlap, where business meets reality in ways that can't always be controlled. Think about the timeline again. Years of tension, multiple incidents across different locations. And now, according to unconfirmed reports, federal cases that may be looking at patterns rather than isolated events. Let that sink in, because when federal agencies get involved, they don't just focus on one moment. They look at years of activity, relationships, and movements. Prosecutors allege in similar cases that building a case like this takes time, patience, and layers of evidence that slowly come together. And that brings us to the question everyone keeps asking, but nobody can fully answer. How deep does this go? Social media is saying that if someone connected to a larger network is cooperating, then multiple stories could start connecting in ways people didn't expect. Some people think this could lead to long-awaited answers. Others believe it could create even more confusion if details are misunderstood or taken out of context. Nothing is confirmed, but the possibility alone has people paying attention in a different way. At the same time, there's a cultural conversation happening that goes beyond any one case. What does it mean when real-life conflicts become part of music narratives? Where is the line between storytelling and reality? And who is responsible when those lines blur? These aren't easy questions, but they're becoming harder to ignore as situations like this continue to happen. From a legal perspective, this is where things get even more serious. Federal cases operate differently from local investigations. They move slower, but they often carry heavier consequences. Terms like racketeering, conspiracy, and cooperating witness aren't just words. They're tools used to build cases that can involve multiple people over long periods of time. In simple terms, it's not just about who did what, it's about who knew what, who communicated with who, and how everything connects. But here's the reality that has to be said clearly. None of this has been confirmed in direct connection to the case involving FBG Cash. Everything being discussed right now exists in the space of allegations, theories, and interpretations. And that matters, because in a world where information spreads fast, it's easy for speculation to feel like truth. Still, the tension doesn't go away. Fans are watching closely. People are analyzing every update, every document, every statement. Social media is going crazy trying to figure out what's real and what's not. And the longer things stay unclear, the more the story grows. At the same time, there's a deeper emotional layer that doesn't get enough attention. Families waiting for answers, communities trying to heal, artists navigating a space where success and scrutiny exist at the same time. Let that sink in, because while the internet debates theories, real people are living with the impact of what happened. And then there's the future. What happens next? Do more details come out through legal proceedings? Does a plea deal actually lead to new information? Or does this remain one of those cases where the full story is never completely known? Those questions are still open, and that's what makes this moment feel so heavy, because right now, we're standing in the middle of a story that isn't finished. A story where the past, the present, and the future are all connected, but not fully understood. And until something changes, until something is confirmed, until the paperwork speaks clearly, everything remains possible. And that uncertainty, that's what keeps everyone watching. And now we're left right here, in the middle of it all. One timeline that started years ago. One moment in June 2022 that changed everything. And now, a wave of federal speculation, paperwork, and theories that fans believe could finally bring answers. But here's the reality. Nothing is confirmed. You've got the loss of FBG cash, a situation that still carries pain for family, friends, and the community. You've got the name of Lil Durk being pulled into conversations through speculation. Not charges in this case. And you've got talk of plea deals, cooperating witnesses, and federal pressure that could change everything, or mean something completely different than what people think. Fans are shocked. Social media is going crazy. People are divided. Some believe the truth is finally getting closer. Others think the internet is connecting dots that don't fully connect. And until something is proven in court, everything stays in that space between possibility and fact. So now it comes down to you. What do you think really happened? Do you believe federal cooperation could actually lead to solving this case? Or do you think this is another situation where speculation is moving faster than the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really trying to see where everyone stands on this. And if you want more deep, or real breakdowns like this, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because if anything new comes out, documents, statements, anything official, you already know we're going to break it down step by step. Stay locked in, because this story, it's not over.